Everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. If it's your first time coming to Tales from the Field, please like and subscribe us on our YouTube channel. On Tuesdays, we have community roundtables where we discuss the blogs and videos created by the data community. On Wednesdays and Mondays, we drop in MS Bits. Over to the new tech video that we have just created. Thank you. Hello, welcome to Tales from the Field. My name is Niraj Javeri and I'm joined with Andreas Padilla. Hey Andreas, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, Niraj. Good to see you. Great to see you out there in the audience. What are we going to talk to the audience about today, Niraj?
First, I want to just thank everybody for watching our two videos that we put it up there, and people liked it, so that's good. One thing, Andreas, today I definitely want to talk to you is the cost management. I screwed up my budget this time, man. I just did not realize I was playing around doing some POCs, and looks like my Azure costs have gone up, and I'm going to be screwed really bad.
Oh man, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We got some tricks up your sleeve that you can implement super easily, and you out there in the audience should have up in your Swiss Army knife of how can I shave some costs? How can I make this run and not hurt my pocket? We got plenty of little tips and tricks for SQL, for ADX, for Synapse. We're going to talk to you a little bit about what you can do out of the box and some things you can do in Azure Advisor to make sure that you're not going over your budget and staying lean and mean. So first thing, let's talk about Niraj, what do you think we can do from an ADLS Gen 2? Because ADLS Gen 2 touches everything.
So for the first ADLS Gen 2, I mean, put the data near you. I mean, do not put it somewhere out of the zone, right? Keep it right next to you. The other thing that I always think is partition it correctly. Keep the, I mean, if you are doing LRS, GRS, depending on your SLAs, keep it in the right zone that you want to put it into, LRS, GRS, or GRS, whichever you want to do it, depending on what your use case is up, put the right thing in that. That would save you a lot of money.
Oh, I got another one. Hey, this is a simple low-hanging run. You don't need all the data in there. If you can clean out data, why house it? Why store it? Also, if you're moving data from one region to another, it's going to cost you. So as long as you're just staying in the same region, that's good. But you start moving it across the regions and doing egress, you'll start noticing that on the bill. So try to keep it all in one region.
And you also know that there are 3 tiers, right? Hot tier, cold tier, and archive tier, right? I mean, usually it saves in the hot tier, but if you have data that you do not need to use it, you can put it on the cold or archive tier, and then it would reduce your cost right there.
I can't believe I almost missed that one. It's your tiers. Pay attention to your tiers. You can set those blobs to have a default tier if you want to. So if you say, you know what, I'm not going to touch this for about 180 days, 360 days, automatically put it in cool or archive. What about SQL? What do you think we can do there?
SQL, if you're on a VM, I would say always keep the VM shut down or lower it, the series whenever you're not using that. During the weekends or the nighttime, you can reduce it up so that would save you a lot of money. Do not have, if you're using SQL, Azure SQL or Azure MI, I mean, MI can always up the course and pause the database if it's not being used. So that's something that I would definitely recommend you to do it.
Oh, great recommendations. The other thing is that with Azure SQL, you can start on a lower tier. If you see that you need a little bit more performance, you can start vertically scaling up. And as long as you keep an eye on the query, the execution plans, how well those queries are coming back, the performance for those queries. If you see good good results from your top 10 queries, stay in that tier. If not, start raising the bar little by little. You don't have to throw the whole kitchen sink at it right away.
Yep.
What do you think we can do for Synapse, though?
Oh, Synapse definitely. So that is usually the biggest cost. Usually people go through it, right? I mean, try serverless SQL. The compute is very lower on it. As much as you can go serverless SQL, that's something that we should recommend every customers that we have. If you have to go dedicated SQL, you can start with a lower core DW units, or you can increase it up, and whenever you're not using it up, you can bring it down. So that saves you a lot of money. If you're using a Spark cluster, I definitely think if you're idle, just turn it off. If you only use the time when you need to run the Spark jobs, and that would save you like, I mean, I know something on Databricks, you have a lot of things, right? You've been doing a lot of things on Databricks, and yes, if you want to share that.
Oh, we're going to start talking about Databricks, but one thing I forgot to mention is that you can set up PowerShell scripts and Azure automation jobs to turn on the cluster and turn it off if you're not using it. So, those PowerShell automation jobs are really easy to implement. I believe there's some right out of the box. If you go to Azure automation and set up an agent job, and if you look for Python and Synapse, there's one that'll turn it off, I believe, right for you. You just got to configure it a little bit. For Databricks, same concept applies. Pause. When you're not using it, turn it off. Always use job clusters. If you're doing proofs of concept, bring up a small, single node cluster for proof of concepts. But for jobs and automating everything, use job clusters. And the other thing that you can use within Databricks is set up cluster policies. You can restrict what kind of cluster, how big the cluster, how many nodes are in that cluster, and you can restrict all your users, who's ever developing, to only bring up a certain tier and a certain configuration of a Databricks cluster. Now, from a query, what do we have for queries within Databricks?
For queries, I think
wide transformations.
That would be the biggest one.
Wide transformations and narrow transformations. Keep an eye on those wide transformations and narrow transformations. There are certain queries, inner joins, group by statements that cause the query to reshuffle from node to node to node. What does that mean? It means there's more latency. Means that the cluster is up a little bit longer, which means that you're getting charged for it. So, and my thought process is, the longer I keep that cluster up and running, the longer I get charged. So I want to do some query optimization, reduce the amount of data that I work with, make sure those data frames are as lean as possible. I don't need all those columns. Let's talk about ADX.
And one other thing that you could do it, like as you said, right? Policies, right? You can create policies throughout your entire Azure subscription, right? Make sure that nobody spins up a particular series of VM, and that would really cost you money. So if your IT department is very keen on it, make sure you have policies in place. In your production, definitely you have that in place. Great
recommendation. Thanks for reminding me of that one, Raj. Can we talk a little bit about Azure Data Explorer?
Sure, go ahead.
Oh man, there's a couple of great things that you can do in ADX. One, if you're not using it, turn it off. Turn off those clusters. You can set cluster policies also. You can set policies so ADX, what it basically is a big, huge cache. And you can reduce the amount of data that's cached. The more data you cache, the more they're going to charge you. So you can set cluster policies to cache less data. You can also vertically scale up. Let's say I'm ingesting a ton of data into the cluster. I can vertically scale up, make that sponge bigger. And then when I'm done soaking it all up, I bring down and make the cluster a little bit smaller.
Yeah. I mean, this is a few things that you should definitely do for every resources, right? You can always bring down or pause the resources. I mean, there are ways to do it. Scripting, PowerShell scripting, there are various ways like ADF, right? I mean, when you do a pipeline, you can always spin up your cluster, bring it down after your pipeline is over, and that saves you a lot of money.
Oh, man, yeah. Okay, one thing about ADX, another one is, take a look out there and Bing what is called the leader follower architecture pattern. And what's great about this architecture pattern is that you can set up one cluster that is purely for reads and another one that is purely for writes. So you direct, if you're doing a ton of reads, you direct them to one cluster, and if you're doing writing, any type of writing, you write them to another cluster. And you get better performance and sometimes lower cost. And the last thing is that you can, I believe, watch out for those query best practices. There's ways that you can bring back data that is partitioned correctly. Remember, you can partition also in ADX, and keep an eye out for those query best practices for your KQL queries. Any other ones?
That's I think that covers a lot of things in there.
Cosmos
a couple of things that I wanted to share also, and let me share my screen is the pricing calculator, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
every single thing that we have on Azure has a good pricing calculator that you can check it out. Give me one sec. And so if you type in your pricing calculator, Azure pricing calculator comes up, and boom. And all you need to do is anything like say ADX was or Synapse, right? Let's go with the Synapse. You
Type in
just bring
Cosmos
it.
DB for me, Niraj.
Oh, sure.
Let's talk a little bit about Cosmos DB because I want to make sure that our audience out there knows. For Cosmos DB, be conscious. It's not going to be in the pricing calculator, but the calculator here can start to give you indications of, the name of the name of the game with Cosmos DB is request units. It's keeping request units as low as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So what can we do? You can optimize queries. You can reduce the document size. You write custom index policies. You don't have to index everything in Cosmos DB. You can set up auto scaling and be conscious of your consistency levels. The higher the consistency, the more stronger. I want accurate reads and writes. The longer it's going to take to write to different regions, the more RUs I'm consuming.
Yep.
And you can also partition your data. Watch out for that hot partition cluster. You don't want to do that.
Yep. And the biggest thing is this one, right? It's 3 years, right? If you 1 to 3 years, you can go up to 65% of your savings. So if you go pay as you go, it's cheaper if you're doing a POC. But if you're going on a production level, this is the best option that every resources would have this. Talk to your account rep. They definitely can come up with options in this for you guys.
Yeah, I can't believe I almost forgot the reserved instances. We almost forgot to say that. That's the lowest hanging fruit.
So this pricing calculator would definitely give you the end to end what your cost is going to be for like 730 hours, which is like almost a month. This would be your cost of it. I mean, same thing for Synapse. If I go in there, I can put down whatever I want to do it, and they will give you every component of Synapse would give you like how many cores you want to do, 64 cores, instances, 4 instances are needed. This is what your cost is going to be. But now if you do a 3-year result, that goes down, and that's what it shows up here. Pay as you go was 5,500. If you go pay as you go, now it goes down to 1,900.
Niraj, do we have anything in Azure that will give me a recommendation for like underutilized resources, something that can be, give me a little bit more guidance?
Sure. So one thing that I definitely want to bring it up is your Azure costing. If you go to Azure subscription or cost and management and billing, this should show you all your details, right? I mean, what your cost is going to be towards the end of the year by resources, by subscription, whatever.
Love this.
And then if you go in view details, that gives you a breakdown. One thing that which Andreas mentioned right before when we started off is this would show me cost by resources, cost by regions, location. If you are like global company, you can check by location, which who's spending more. By services, it shows you up by databases, by Synapse, by ADF, I mean, whatever you want to spend it up. And then
go back in the breadcrumb right there where it says Azure Advisor recommendations, I think, or advisor recommendations.
Yes, that's all. I was going to go up. Sorry.
Oh, nice.
So one before you go to subscription, let me check one thing. This is what you definitely do want to put it up, cost alerts, which I did not do it. You add a cost alert and then you put down a result, right? I mean, as soon as your bill goes, add a budget. So you can create a budget, enter a unique name, monthly budget or something. And then I would want to start from first day of this into January 2025. You can say my amount is $10,000. So as soon as my budget hits that $10,000, it is going to start giving me an alert. And then what you could do is you can always set up limits, right? Say my forecasted percentage. So as soon as it reaches 70% of my budget, so around $7,000, I can put an email address to myself, or I can send a group of people who can get an alert. And as soon as you do that, you definitely would get an alert up saying that you're crossing your budget for this month. And that definitely would save you a lot of money.
Oh, man. Oh, I want to keep some money in my pocket. I love this.
Yep. And then the second thing that Andreas was talking about was advisor. So right here, it would give you cost advisory, what you could save it up on your. So it says right size, undersized SQL databases. I have a SQL databases that it's overkilled. I could have saved around $14.47 if I undersize it up correctly.
Oh, I love this. You can look at potential usage inefficiencies.
Mhm.
You can act on the recommendations to resize virtual machines.
Yep.
You
might
can
click on
verify the
here.
action to ensure the virtual machine was successfully resized. This applies to like SQL, Synapse, everything, all our services, just to make sure we're utilizing the right tier.
Yep.
This is beautiful. Okay.
And then I also wanted to share this particular link and optimize cost per recommendation. So this is where we are talking about this particular site, and we'll put this link in the chat. What really does it, right? What it shows you how to set this up, and we are optimize. I mean, we are costing on it.
Do we have a resource where they can see a lot of the recommendations for performance and costs? Anything that we have?
I think this was the one that I wanted definitely. It is Andreas. I think the entire team of our team worked on it, right, to see how you can tip and tricks where data go fast, and it shows you each and every component on data set how you can reduce your cost on it. You want to walk through it, Andreas? I can.
Yeah, let's. If you share that mind map.
The mind map.
Oh, it's coming up nicely. So, if you want recommendations to how to improve performance for your data services from the data lake perspective, from the SQL, we put together, we consolidated all the top tricks that you can incorporate into your Azure workloads so you can get better performance, better costs for your ADX, Cosmos DB, Databricks. I mean, basically try to put all of them in there. Data Factory, Power BI, IoT workloads, your Azure Search. Man, thank you to all the group who put this together. And I believe if we go to aka.ms/appgofast, that is the other link. That is the performance optimization for your app workloads within Azure. So if you're trying to squeeze a little bit more performance for your Kubernetes clusters, your containers, your function apps, your front door setup, your logic apps, Event Hub, DevOps, all in those mind maps. So please, I mean, this is a great little Swiss Army knife that you can have in your back pocket. All you got to do is pull this out and be like, man, I want a function app to go faster. What do I need to do? Click on the node, start reading right there. We have links to all the documentation that supports it, but just a quick reminder, nice little utility that hopefully helps you out when you're trying to, remind yourself, what can I do to make this go faster?
Yep. Yeah, this was really helpful, right? And I hope we can save you money, and that's what everybody's looking for, right? Saving. Anything that you can save, that's going to help you out. So reach out to us from Tales on the Field, Andreas, myself, or Bradley or Josh, and we can definitely help you out on this.
Please reach out to us. And Raj, anything else? I think we're good. Cost optimization. That's, these are the mind map, your Azure Advisor,
pricing calculator.
Pricing calculator. I think you're good to go.
We'll put all these links also in the video, so you can always watch it up whenever you're at.
Raj, you're the man. As usual. Beautiful.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you. See you.
Get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you want to be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.